we're here today to talk to you about Esoteric Christmas. That's right. Cuddle up by the fire and get ready for the age-old story of Christmas. And
this
we all
is totally
know,
different than what I was going to start the show with.
we all know what Christmas is about, the true nature of Christmas, and that's one thing. What is it?
Paganism.
I was going to say Jesus Christ, but all right. That's pretty cool too, buddy.
I was going to go,
Yo, that harmonica was nice.
Yeah.
like classic song.
That harmonica was nice.
That harmonica was pretty lit.
I wasn't feeling it, honestly.
Well, I think you're just being a little, what's the word I'm looking for? You're being too hard on yourself.
Yeah,
I think that harmonica was honestly great, and you could probably make a country album just...
Yo, you know what's crazy? Honestly, Jenny's mom can play harmonica.
That's lit.
She broke out her harmonica last week and just started ripping.
Are you kidding me?
I was like, what?
That's sick.
Honestly.
I would love to just like have that skill in my back pocket
Yeah.
to just be like, hey, you know what I can do? I could rip the harmonica.
Dude.
Harmonicas are cool.
I've always wanted to play the harmonica.
Let's be honest here, bro. You see somebody whip out a freaking harmonica and start like, see my harmonica was way worse.
The first song I thought of was Piano Man.
There you go. Yeah.
Off the top of my head, but yeah, there you go.
Hey.
But yeah, we got a lot to discuss.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
Oh.
We have a lot of really, really dense history behind Christmas to discuss. So
yeah, I'm super stoked for this episode because like this one has kind of been kept a little secret from us, and you just did all the deep diving yourself.
So I've been thinking like there was two ways I wanted to go about this, and it's like 50-50. Either start with the esoteric stuff first and then get into the pagan stuff and the history of Christmas, or vice versa. I think I'm going to do the history first and then like kind of end it with some of the more deeper like spiritual meanings behind Christmas. But you know, as we know, Christmas is literally the biggest holiday in the world. At least you know, one of them. Everybody around the world has some sort of tradition at this time of year.
Google it, Alex. What's the most popular holiday in the world?
Dude, it has to be Christmas. It's got to be because think about it. How many Christmas movies are there?
I haven't researched anything yet, but just thinking numbers wise, maybe Chinese New Year.
You might be right there.
You think so?
Hit it with a Google,
pure
son.
numbers. I'll Google
biggest
it.
holiday.
I'm placing my bets.
No, honestly, that's a good point. But anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
I don't know. I've never celebrated Chinese New Year.
That's true.
I mean, but I've never celebrated Kwanzaa or Hanukkah either.
Yeah.
Or
Ramadan.
Yeah, or Ramadan or
any of them.
Whatever. But anyway, so Christmas is a very nuanced, very deep discussion. There's many angles we're going to go at this here. So
Christmas.
It is Christmas.
It's Christmas.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's go.
Always got to start something.
Well, we got a fact checker.
Christmas. Number 2 is New Year. 5.
Okay, we'll give it Chinese New Year for number 2. Yeah.
Well, no, regular New Year. I think Chinese New Year's 4, but this is
what's the difference between regular New Year and Chinese New Year? We should talk about that.
Well, they're different dates.
Oh, yeah, they are?
Yes. They're on different days.
Bro, where was I born?
In America.
In North Carolina.
Good old North Carolina. Merry Christmas to y'all.
I can't fathom that I was raised...
Did you hear that? He said,
fathom.
Yes. He said, I can't fathom.
That I was raised in the intricacies of Chinese New Year.
You in Louisiana.
I don't know the ins and outs.
He said New Year.
So Christmas takes us all the way back to the very early roots of civilization, back to ancient Babylon.
Ooh,
so
I'm excited.
Babylon is one of the very earliest
like civilization.
Yeah, civilizations, obviously, or cultures, and they have their very mysterious traditions. And so we start with the god Nimrod. It's this, well, technically Nimrod was a man, but then he becomes a god.
Where have I heard that?
The Bible.
Oh, well,
He's
yeah.
in the Bible. Actually, we were talking about this with your dad last week. I'm pretty sure Nimrod is one of the characters in the story of the Tower of Babel.
Oh, no way. So we were talking about that.
Yeah, we
That's
weren't
crazy.
talking specifically about Nimrod.
Right.
Could you look that up? I didn't research like the Tower of Babel. That just pulled that off my hat.
Pull that off my hat.
Out of my hat. But so the story of Nimrod.
What's up, Alex?
Well, what did you want to know specifically?
No, if Nimrod was present in the Tower of Babel story or how he was involved in the Bible.
Yeah.
Just put that in your back pocket.
Yeah.
You got it.
what we're getting at here is, okay, let me just break it down this way. So in all of the ancient cultures, right, they were basing their star system, or their myth religious systems on the star cycles.
Right, yeah.
They didn't have all of the knowledge of history before us like we have now, as far as internet and intricate libraries and codexes and things like that in the way ancient past. And they were basing their knowledge on the stars and the astrology and the zodiac. They call it astrotheology.
Oh, okay.
So there's always this figure of a virgin birth, so to speak. We say Christ, the word Christ is complicated, and we're going to get into that later. That's the more esoteric side of Christmas. The word Christ is complicated because when you say Christ, normies who don't know what you're talking about think you're talking about Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like probably the majority of the world when
thinks it's Jesus.
Yeah, when they hear Christ, they think of Jesus.
You say the word Christ and people have a 50-50 split. Either they're offended by it and they're like, you lost me. I've had people tell me that, like, you lost me. I don't, whatever. I don't want to talk about that. Or you have the people that's like, yeah, you're talking about Jesus. But no, Christ is something much more ancient and mysterious and eternal. We're going to go into that. But you see evidence of this mysterious Christ in every major myth system. Like I said, typically based on the stars. So in ancient Babylon, which is one of the very first cultures, they had this figure named Nimrod, who in the mythology, also worth mentioning, we have to understand that these mythologies are not literal. They're not, meant to be taken as gospel. These ancients were describing mechanisms of nature and consciousness through mythological representations, through archetypes,
Yeah, yeah.
The normies out there who aren't like aware of esoteric shit, so to speak, they read this and they're like,
that didn't happen.
Well, no, but they're more like, it's evil. They're, they're worshiping Osiris and they're worshiping Nimrod and they're blah, blah. They really weren't. I mean, people were, but then esoterically, they were describing these archetypes of nature and consciousness. So Nimrod is one of the very first historical depictions of a virgin birth, and his mother was Ishtar or Semiramis, which is the queen with it's a crown on her head, which you see depicted in the Statue of Liberty.
Ah,
also where it's believed etymologically where the word Easter comes from.
Whoa.
We're not talking about Easter. That's a different, we can do an Easter episode when Easter comes around.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Because that's the biggest holiday in Greece.
Yeah.
Like, we have a huge blowout every year.
Yeah, we'll definitely do
it's
an
the
Easter
most
episode.
popular in the whole world.
Hey, I bet you anything if you Googled the most popular holiday in Greece is Easter. I bet you money.
I won't take that bet.
Bro.
Okay.
I don't know, bro.
What?
I'm just saying Christmas. No, I know you tell me all the time.
We
like
hear about the spirit of Christmas.
we don't talk about Easter on Christmas Sunday.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But so the story of Nimrod was that I wrote it down specifically because I'm going by memory here, but the story of Nimrod was that
Wait a minute. I know where I have heard the word Nimrod. It's like a derogatory.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Like, you Nimrod, like calling somebody an idiot. What is that about?
Okay, so here we go. So we know from observing the stars and the planets and the celestial bodies and observing the solstices and the equinoxes. There's a reason that this is, I feel like I'm kind of like coming into what I wanted to say here. So, like sometimes when your brain's foggy and you got to just like get it up and going and you're like,
you got to jump it.
Where was I going with that?
Yeah,
I got the jumper cables to my brain right now. So in the very ancient past, these holidays were placed on near the solstices and the equinoxes for a reason. If you use your head for a minute, you'll think about it. Most major holidays we celebrate are pretty much right beside an equinox or a solstice. You have Easter. It's near the spring equinox.
Right, yeah.
Obviously a significance there. Christmas.
It's
It's literally days after the winter solstice.
Yeah.
And then in America, we don't necessarily have holidays for the summer solstice and what am I missing here? What other season?
So summer, winter, fall, yeah.
The
spring.
But that's Halloween. It's near the equinox.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It has to do with the celestial bodies. So this is fact. This is indisputable fact. People hear this and like, it was in the documentary Zeitgeist, but it shakes people when they hear this, but it's true. The ancient myths of Christmas are all revolved around the solar force that gives life to nature. So on the winter solstice, it is the darkest day of the year, December 21st.
Yeah.
And the sun, for 3 days, begins to go in a retrograde motion and descends deeper into darkness. And then on the day of December 25th, the sun is, so to speak, reborn, and it begins to exit its retrograde motion and rise higher above the horizon, and then thus begins the journey of the sun rising higher and higher until spring, when we start to have
So
long
you're
days
telling
again.
me on the third day, the sun was risen.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds familiar.
Well, so
Can I ask you a question as a Nimrod?
sure.
Does that stuff happen every year to the date?
Yeah. The solstice is the 21st of
Okay,
December. It's the
okay.
darkest day of the year.
So the sun cycle, the moon cycle, like it happens on the exact same dates.
I say darkest. What I mean is the sun is lowest
Sure, yeah.
in its orbit. You know what I mean? In its orbit, you know, and it begins its descent, retrograde motion, and in 3 days it's born again on December 25th. So the ancients revered that as, you know, you got to think 10,000 years ago, these people were literally subject to the harsh conditions of nature. You know, they didn't have AC and heat and all the technology we have to stay warm. They were out there freezing their asses off, sitting there. Please, we want the sun to come back so bad. Please,
I'll worship
please.
the sun. Just come back.
I mean, the ancients really depended on the sun. I mean,
Sure.
think about it. They didn't eat hardly like they're used to for 3 to 6 months out of the year, simply because this solar force that brings life and light is hidden. You know, it's descended down into darkness, into the underworld, so to speak, through the fall and the winter. So when the sun began its descent back on December 25th, the ancients praised and celebrated this. Yes, we survived another harsh winter. You know, we're coming back towards spring. So this myth began in Babylon when they described this as, and so then going forward from that, all of these ancient cultures had their own mythological archetypal figures and personifying this, you know?
Yeah, their own counterparts.
Exactly. So they're personifying the function of the sun, you know, bringing life to the world. So Nimrod, he is probably the oldest version of a virgin birth that we know of. Maybe Osiris, Horus, Isis. Somebody could look that up, but
buddy, it's Jesus Christ.
well, we're gonna end up somewhere there. So anyway, so the story goes that Nimrod, he dies. I wrote down exactly when he dies. He dies on the 21st.
He dies?
In the myth.
What a Nimrod. Dude.
I know, right? He dies in the myth, and then he's reborn as the sun god Tammuz. Reborn, but also in these myths, for some reason, this is weird. So in these myths with these virgin birth characters, typically their wife is also their mother. Think about it.
Whoa.
Just think out of the box.
Hold up.
See, somebody who's typically like traditional fundamental Christian would hear that and be shocked, but they really shouldn't, because technically, according to Christian doctrine, Jesus is the Son of God, but he also is God, which means he was born from his mother, who was impregnated by
Him.
God, who he is. So when you break it down with a non-emotional reaction and you just compare the mythologies,
It's the same.
Mary is Jesus' wife.
Gotcha.
And it's the same in every myth. Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Or if it's not their mother, it's their sister.
That's wild.
You know, it's metaphor.
Yeah.
It's not literal. They're not saying God came down and impregnated a woman and then a figure was born that's going to save the world.
And they're not saying keep it in the family.
They're
not saying that either. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the ancient myth goes, Nimrod was, you know, he was reborn as the sun god Tammuz, and then in the place of his rebirth, a dead evergreen tree, which is obviously a Christmas tree, was miraculously, it was sprung forth with new life on December 25th.
Nice.
So in ancient times, they would hang apples on them to sell it, and it's referencing the apple of Eden. When we get to the Middle Ages, they started to hang apples on the Christmas tree, and it's the apple of Eden. So anyway,
like ornaments.
Exactly. So symbolizing the new spiritual rebirth of Nimrod. In the Babylonian mythology, every year Nimrod returns and leaves gifts by the tree. So that's where we get this ancient idea of a Christmas tree. It's the evergreen tree in the Babylonian myth. where Nimrod is reborn and then a tree is born, and it's
So this is the earliest myth of Christmas.
the earliest. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So then we go, let's see, where do we go next here?
That's
So
so
then,
cool.
and so the Norse culture had a different idea about it. Their idea was Yule. And they celebrated, they had Yuletide. It was
Right.
like a festival every year where they celebrated. In Rome, they had Saturnalia.
Funny because even in westernized Christmas like songs and lore, the word Yuletide is used all the time.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
The pagan roots of Christmas and then the Middle Age Catholic Christian version of Christmas eventually become syncretized and fused. And then they scrubbed the ancient origins and they're like, this is,
It's ours now.
it's Christ Mass.
Right.
But anyway, so
So you said the Romans
Saturnalia.
Saturnalia.
So when you get into ancient paganism, they had the idea that in the dark months was the time where the forces of, the forces of darkness, the forces of death, the forces of decay were more active.
Oh.
So they believed there was an energy there, like Halloween. That's what that's all about. It's about the veil thinning, and then the realm of the dead is kind of like meshing more with the realm of the living, and that's why they would wear masks to ward off spirits.
Lines up a lot with Greek myth too, with Persephone descending into the underworld, and then the overworld dying and decaying, and darkness taking over, and then she comes back and brings spring with her.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what you find is like in all these ancient cultures, they're basing it on the star and the life and death cycles of the seasons, the equinoxes and the solstices, which are literally dictated entirely by the sun and how we, orbit around the sun. And, you think about all the death and decay happens only because the sun is hidden or it's descended.
Sure.
So in Norse culture, they had Yule. They celebrated the sun returning from the darkest days of winter. You got to think in Europe, in these places where they're having these traditions, particularly, it's much colder. They're in these more northern regions where the winters are harsh. I mean, here in North Carolina, 1,000 years ago,
Yeah.
or around America.
I think the coldest it's ever gotten in North Carolina is probably like around 15 degrees, 20 degrees. Whereas so many other places, it's -0, like below zero, like,
There's some really
Not
cold ass
-0.
places in Western North Carolina, but
Yeah.
I'm not trying to compare North Carolina to these places. I'm just saying, like, I can't fathom how harsh it would have been to survive in these traditions or in these conditions back then. Like, it's truly mind blowing. Like, I'd probably be celebrating the sun's return too.
Yeah.
And sometime between, when the Catholic Church began to form through the Middle Ages, really rise into power and start to spread throughout Europe.
Yeah.
They continued to celebrate these pagan traditions of Yule, Saturnalia. It wasn't called Christmas. It had all these different names for these cultures that were celebrating this time period. Oh, I forgot to even mention, all scholars pretty much agree that Jesus was probably born in the spring. The real historical human Jesus wasn't born on December 25th.
Yeah, I've always heard that, like it's February or March or something like that.
I mean,
Yeah,
it would have been cold in that manger.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
it did have some hay in it, and the pig probably got in there.
There was
laid
also
there.
And he was
There were
swaddled.
sheep and goats, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they warmed him up.
There's a bunch of like
but-
Can I-
sweaty shit too. That
Nick,
What?
coldest day ever recorded in North Carolina.
Oh God, come on!
-20.
-34.
Holy!
Mount-
I was so
Mount
wrong.
Mitchell.
Dude, I mean, in Western North Carolina,
Yeah.
it's mountains.
That's true.
It gets
The Appalachian-
really, really cold.
The
But
Appalachian Mountains.
I'm just saying, like, I've lived in a pretty hot climate my whole life. Like, I couldn't fathom being in the ancient past in these, harsh snow conditions, living in like either, some cloth teepee
Igloo, brother.
or a wooden, structure. Like you're cold day and night.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
these people are suffering. They're dying. They're dying by the freaking thousands just because of the conditions and the scarcity of food. And it was such a joyous occasion every single year when life back then was not guaranteed. I mean, imagine being wounded in the winter. You know what I mean? You have a broken bone or you're cut.
Screwed.
Dude, you're dead.
Yeah, you're dead.
You're literally dead. So when that sun begins to rise, literally these cultures would have feasts in the major metropolitan areas of these ancient cultures. They would have, like I said, they had Yule, they had Saturnalia. In Rome, what they would do for their Christmas time celebration, they would all get together and feast and have orgies.
Yeah.
And they would subvert the roles of society to celebrate, the sun returning, I guess. And like what is said is the masters would pretend to be slaves and the slaves would pretend to be masters.
Wow.
They would role play and they would just, it was just like literally a drunken stupor And what I'm getting at, I'm not saying like that's what we should do. What I'm saying that's how much the ancients revered the cycles of the celestial bodies.
They were like so overtaken with their gratification that they just became complete hedonists for a small amount of time.
It's not cold anymore.
Right? Thank God. Let's just relish in everything that just full hedonism. I mean, shoot, if you survive a harsh winter and like a bunch of your homies died, like
I'm gonna party.
Yeah, you gotta have some orgies when you come out of that. Let's just be honest.
Right.
So it's
stay warm.
It's well known in Rome that the elite class of Rome had a mystery cult where they worship Mithra, also like an esoteric sun god.
Yeah.
So the elites would have a Mithraic celebration for Christmas. So sometime between the rise of, in the ancients, they were celebrating it all the way back to Babylon. And, like we've already said, each culture had their own version of it. We get to a point in history where the Roman Empire is rising to where it's like the dominating force of the world. Yeah. And then obviously they merge with Christianity when the office of the Pope and the Roman Emperor, essentially, they did away with the emperor and they're like, the Pope is fucking God on earth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we get to a point in the Middle Ages where they decided to hold Catholic masses every day on December 25th. And people would get out and they would still celebrate the pagan origins of Christmas. I say pagan. Here, let me go into a quick little side note on paganism. When I say paganism, I don't mean, I'm not like having any delusions about like people are literally worshiping, Poseidon and Zeus. And like, that's not what the esoteric mystery schools were doing. You see, that's what the exoteric people were doing. They were worshiping these gods, so to speak. But the esoteric mystery schools were worshiping the forces. Exactly like what we talk about, consciousness, the archetypal expressions of creation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, so they called it Christ Mass. In the middle, when they started having their Christmas Day celebration on December 25th, it was the Mass of Christ.
Damn.
And eventually the word became syncretized to be Christmas.
Christ Mass.
So that's just a quick little...
Did you know that the word goodbye is the same thing? It's God be with you, shortened.
No, I did not know that.
I learned that from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah.
That's cool. Isn't his birthday December 25th?
It might be.
I'm pretty
not
sure.
I love him so much. He's so awesome. Yeah, goodbye. Isn't that crazy? God be with you.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
That's really weird.
But Christmas, that's dope. Christ
But yeah,
Mass.
so, and then like you get into, okay, so a side note here. So the Roman Emperor Constantine is one of the most pivotal people in all of history that I feel like people really don't talk about that much. And so what Constantine did was, in the 300s, hundreds of years after the man, Jesus, the real historical living person, died, what he started talking about, the messages he started coming out with, and you get into Gnosticism and all the stuff we talk about, the esoteric text, the Emerald Tablets and the Essenes and what the Nazarenes were really teaching in that region. It's all the mystical shit. Jesus was waking people up. They killed his ass. And Constantine, around the year 311 or 312 or 313 maybe, I always get confused on the exact date, he gets to a point in his time of being the emperor where he's like, these Christians are really like not bad people. Why have we been slaughtering them for 300 years? Like they actually like pay their taxes and shit.
Yeah, we get money from them.
Yeah, like they're actually pretty like loyal people, So what he did was, okay, so there's the legendary version of Constantine where he goes to war and he's like, he worships the Roman sun god Sol Invictus, which again, I forgot to say is the one that they revered on the day of Christmas, the solar force, virgin birth, same story. All these cultures in their Christmas story has some sort of virgin birth. And Constantine worships Sol Invictus and he says, Christ is a really cool idea. If this power is real, this is the real legend of Emperor Constantine. There's like documentaries about this. I learned about it in college in my studies.
He looks a lot like Keanu Reeves.
Does he?
Based on, I was making a joke.
I was about to say, I don't know if they had photographs back then.
This is a bad joke.
But freaking, so Constantine is like, if this power is real, show me a sign. Mm. And what he wrote in history was that he looked up and he saw a symbol of the sun showing a cross. And he's about to go to war. So he had all of his soldiers paint that symbol on their shields. And they won the battle. That's the legendary version.
Oh, shit.
There's probably a real version, probably some political reason. He's like, man, we got to legalize Christianity because we can, enslave people with it. So anyway, so what happens next in history? He declared the Edict of Milan, where Christianity is legalized throughout the Roman Empire. But here's what that sneaky sumbitch did.
Uh-oh.
He also legally decreed that Jesus' birthday is on December 25th.
Damn.
The same birthday as the sun god, the Roman sun god Sol Invictus.
Right. I remember.
So right there, since the year 300 whatever, billions of people around the world have been basically indoctrinated into ancient pagan rituals.
Without even knowing it.
Without knowing it, while celebrating Jesus and giving gifts and the trees and the ornaments and this and that and the other. What were you going to say, Alex?
That's a 300 IQ play right there.
It really is.
Honestly, man.
I mean, you can't blame the dude.
It changed history.
That's hard. Like,
you know what I mean? And okay, so he declares that December 25th is the birthday of Jesus. And then sometime around the year 383 or something like that, Emperor Theodosius says, you know what? These Christians are really fucking cool. We're going to make this the state religion. And then the rest is history. There was this avalanche of them acquiring power as the Roman Catholic Church. And now everybody literally everywhere is performing pagan rituals when they go to mass every Sunday at their Catholic church.
Yeah.
Now, again, for anybody out there who's Christian, I'm not hating on Christianity. I'm not hating on the message and the tenets and the
tradition.
And the tradition. I'm just saying, like, this is the real origin of what we've all been duped into believing. So then we get into, so I got some texts that I wanted to read about esoteric Christianity.
Yeah, and I feel like if most
for Christmas, I
feel like a lot of, rightfully so, a lot of Christian people or people who follow the Christian faith are like very guarded and very defensive over the religion. So a lot of them would probably hear this and be like, oh, that's bull. It's not true. That's fake or whatever. But like, if you read the history, that shit was happening way before Jesus Christ, and it's thousands of years before Christ was even around. Jesus was even around.
The way I understand it is like there is a spiritual glitch in the matrix, and humanity truly, as a whole, if you look at the human race right now, if the dominant spiritual systems of today were fully true and fully correct, we wouldn't be suffering anymore. We wouldn't be in war and poverty and famine. And, I kind of see it as like all of these systems have something really beautiful to offer, but they're broken. They're not finished. They're not complete. I do believe in the age of Aquarius, all of these old religions are going to dissolve because people are going to rapidly wake up to the truth. Like, we don't need to be enslaving our souls to worship gods literally, because I believe people will eventually learn the truth that we all are, a fractal piece of God. It's like you don't need to. When you become awake to this, I can't fathom worshiping a man, but I open the text and Jesus says, don't worship me. I'm not God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's something broken here.
Yeah.
There's something broken here. But anyway, that's a tangent. So, okay. So, I did miss one thing. So in ancient Rome, also, they would bring the evergreen trees inside for Christmas. They would put the apples on them because it symbolized, the Garden of Eden, but they also put holly on them, which symbolized the crown of thorns in the Jesus myth.
Oh.
Now, when you get into the subject of holly, you get into ancient druidism, very, very esoteric paganism.
Yeah, they would make wands out of
holly trees, but also you get into the nitty-gritty of it. They believed in two forces of nature. I'm talking like druids, like ancient nature-worshipping pagans. They believed the Holly King and maybe it's the oak. I don't know, whatever the summer one was. It's like the jolly green giant guy, the force that's alive during the summer, and it's personified as this like jolly green being. But during the fall and the winter, it was the Holly King. It's the horned goat. And it people equate it to, Baphomet, the goat of Mendez, blah, 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 blah. The
oak king.
The oak king. Yeah. So the holly, you find the traces of holly Yuletide in all the Christmas music today. You know, what I'm saying is you see those vestiges of these ancient beliefs and, you know, our Christian, so to speak, Christmas practices today. Yeah. But anyway, Yuletide and holly, you know. So, okay, so I got one more historical Christmas theory here. I don't really know the validity of this, but I thought it was really cool. So there's a mushroom theory about Christmas and about the origins of Santa Claus and how because obviously Santa, it's like, where did that come from? Yeah. How did that get injected into Christmas? You know what I mean? Knowing that it was such a very real ancient spiritual holiday far before Christ. So, or, you know, before Jesus. I shouldn't say before Christ because I have a different.
My parents used to tell me that Santa was Jesus's brother.
Wow.
Love you, Mom.
Wow. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the implications of people just I don't think they know what they're getting into with spirituality and religion. You know, they really don't. And when I say they, I mean all of us.
Oh, of course.
I say they, I mean the world.
It's an elaborate trick that we've all been made to believe. All of us. Yeah.
And like, I want to say, like, I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed. I feel like, you know, those of us here and many others have been very fortunate to be allowed to have a peek behind the veil and see these beings, see these lights, and like know that there is something real. And all I know anymore after growing up with these lights and seeing them my whole life is like, it's not about living your whole life worshiping a certain religion or a creed or a doctrine and not like, you know, you're going to go to heaven or hell. Like, that's all they know. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like literally it's all they know, but there's so much more to that. There's so much more. It's about being liberated from, I don't know. Like, it's about being liberated from the ignorance of the spiritual reality. And I really believe that they can try their damnedest. They can be the most loving, positive, most gleeful people in the world. They could be a Muslim. They could be a Jew. They could be a Christian. They could be Yoruba. They could, to the max, they could follow it to the creed. But I don't think the systems are complete because they don't tell you the whole picture.
I feel like, and that seems like that was intentional. It's like a piece was taken from each one of these
religions. It's like a
religions.
glitch. You know what I mean? Like a little spiritual glitch.
To sow chaos and like, you know, to make it to where none of us could see eye to eye. None of us could find the middle ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like also each of those religions, this is just like off the top of my head opinion, I feel like all of those religions also, there was like things put in them to be like, if you look into other religions, that's wrong and you're going to go to hell. It's like it was designed from the start to keep us apart.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Rather than together.
And alternatively to that, what I really believe is that a lot of these ancient traditions were formed and they may have been like really trying to understand stuff, but they didn't have, you know, the technology or the language or maybe the specific development of consciousness in the ancient past to fully understand these concepts. And they were like grasping at it and they were mythologizing it with figures and heroes and archetypes. And like, that's the problem though. You know what I mean? Because anyway, it's a tangent. Is any of this making sense?
Totally.
I feel like I'm like totally ranting.
Oh,
here.
No.
Anyway,
So this all makes sense.
So here's the mushroom theory. So this is pretty cool. So this is one theory to the origin of Santa Claus in ancient Siberia, which, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it's at the North Pole. Ancient Siberia.
I'm going to say
it's Lapland, Siberia.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, why not? It's at the North Pole. We're at the South Pole right now.
Yeah.
And the Bledsoe Center studio, we're at the South Pole.
Yeah.
So
a lot of you don't know, but our studio is at the South Pole.
It literally is.
We take a flight here every 2 weeks. It's pretty arduous. It's pretty taxing, but
it's very tiring.
The location, it's a very mystical location. It fosters a great vibe here. So we love the South Pole.
Dude, I couldn't be happier here.
It's our home.
You know, the reindeer are
oh man, some of them fly a little too fast for me sometimes, but I mean, I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to it. I mean,
anyway.
Tell me about Santa, bro.
So in Siberia, so there was this idea of shamanism in the ancient past. That was the true spiritual system, was the shamans. You know, they were consuming these magic potions, which, you know, you read about that in the ancient Greek texts, and it was Kaikion in Greece, or, they were eating mushrooms in certain regions, and they were truly, and in Norse cultures as well, they were consuming mushrooms, and like the ancient shamans were connecting to higher consciousness through altered states, and they were describing this to people esoterically. And I guess what I was trying to say earlier is I think over time this stuff got confused, and that's where these big mythologies came from. But in the ancient, way, way back past, it was shamans. And anyway, so in Siberia, what the shamans would do is they had these Amanita muscaria mushrooms, which are red and white. It's like your classic little toadstool that you see in Mario, the red and white mushroom. And it's a very toxic mushroom. So what they would do is every year on December 21st, the winter solstice, these shamans, they would dress like the mushroom because they revered its sacred consciousness.
Which Ryan is dressed like right now.
I'm dressed in red and white. Yep. And they revered this mushroom, so they would dress like it. And, as people would trip, they would look at them, and these shamans looked like the mushroom, dressed in red and white. And they were old sages with like white beards. They were older people. They kind of looked like Santa Claus in their red outfit with the white and the white beards. And every year on December 21st, these shamans would wander around the villages, and they would seek people who truly lived in like teepees, like in huts. And, the snow would be covering their doors. I mean, we're talking literally dead of winter, in freaking Siberia. So snow every freaking where. And they would be eating these mushrooms in the forest after drying them on their evergreen trees to remove the toxicity from the mushrooms. And then they would eat them. And these shamans had adapted some level of tolerance to them to where they could pee it out, and the people would drink their pee and trip on the mushrooms. And that was the gift that they brought every year, was spiritual enlightenment to their followers.
Wait. So they would drop mushrooms into the teepees, or they would eat the mushrooms and pee?
Both. There's different versions of it.
Would pee into the teepee.
So what was claimed...
That's why it's called a teepee.
There you go.
Whoa!
Oh, because you drink the pee-pee.
Right. Yeah.
So, and they also had reindeer that would... These reindeers would graze in the forest and eat these mushrooms. And then they would pee it out, and they would harvest their pee, and they would drink the pee, and then they'd be looking at the mushrooms and they're flying, or at the reindeer and they're flying.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? But
there goes Donner and Dash.
Can you imagine being in a Siberian forest tripping on mushrooms?
He's like, Donner. Donner.
Donner, blitzing.
I'm blitzed.
Yeah. Oh my God. Blitzing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's funny.
One of them has a glowing nose. What's happening?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it's crazy. So what they would say is it's believed that these shamans would crawl into their huts from the top where the smoke would come out when they have a fire.
But
because the doors are blocked off from snow.
Yeah.
So they would get in through the chimney, so to speak, and they would literally trip balls with these people. And that was their gift.
That's awesome.
And then I got to go back up through the chimney.
So that's
later,
that's
on to the next house.
That's one really cool theory behind Santa Claus.
That's so cool. I love that. I've never heard that.
Where
you got, Alex?
Where are we at for time?
We're good on time, but I just wanted to let y'all know that Serbia is 3,825.89 miles from the North Pole.
Well,
well, the documentary I watched said it was at the North Pole, so that was wrong.
I mean,
check out Lapland. Where is Lapland? I said Siberia, not Serbia. But come on, man.
Wow, dude.
Did I say Serbia? I definitely typed in Siberia.
Check out Lapland.
I typed in Siberia.
Okay. Type in Lapland, Siberia. We're going to see if it's at the North Pole right now. And if not, then I get coal.
You get coal for Christmas. Yeah.
So I get coal in my stocking.
Let's see.
You get coal for Christmas.
Located in the Arctic Circle at the northernmost tip of Finland, Lapland is considered the real North Pole because it is the official residence of
it's a Christmas miracle.
Santa Claus lives there.
Y'all come
But
back
Lapland is not Siberia.
Oh, okay. Well, forget the Siberia part.
Forget it. Throw it out the window. It's gone.
Okay, so I'm not
about
perfect.
20 minutes.
I'm not perfect. All right, so I had some things that are very interested, and I wanted to read them. These, a lot of this was just little like jumbled notes off the dome, but there's some things I wanted to read specifically. And these are esoteric texts from the Gnostic method about like the esoteric origins of Christmas and Christ.
Bro, Mushroom Santa is so cool.
It makes so much sense.
It does.
It's magical.
Is that documentary on Netflix?
It's just like YouTube videos where people are compiling. There's like a professor. I can't remember the guy's name, and he's notorious for like researching this and spreading. And people are like covering his material, but you could easily find it. Just look up Mushroom Santa Claus, and there's tons of information about it.
I'm gonna go rewrite my Christmas list.
All right. Yeah. So there's something I wanted to read here, and it's really cool. So let me get back here to lesson number 25, Christmas, nativity. All right. It would be for it would be worthless for the Christ to be born 1,000 times in Bethlehem if he is not born in our hearts as well. We have to form Christ within ourselves in order to enter through the doors into the triumphant and victorious city on Palm Sunday. Christmas is a cosmic event that must be performed in each one of us. The nativity, Christmas, is absolutely individual. It is necessary for the Christ to be born in each one of us. Hold on. I got quite a bit more to read.
So this is talking about the nativity as like a concept rather than...
Just follow me here.
All right.
It is important for all of us to visualize, to understand, to comprehend what Christ is, because there are a lot of mistaken interpretations and assumptions of what Christ is, and also the nativity, which in this day and age is called Christmas. The word Christmas comes from the word Christ, whose root is in the Greek language. Christ is in Greek is written with the letter chi, which has the form of an X, also called chai. It's like, I don't know if that's said right, but it's K, but it's okay, chai.
Or yeah, it's more like chi.
It's K-C-H-I.
Right.
So when you write Christ in Greek, the CH has the form of an X, which relates to another hieroglyphic with which Christ is very often represented when you place a P on the X. Remember, hieroglyphics are Egyptian.
Yeah.
But really, the letter, which in Latin is P, is the letter R or rho in Greek. Uh-huh. So when you write X and rho, you are symbolically pointing at the activity of rho or Ra, the fire, because R is a symbol of the fire in activity. Ra is related with the solar force among the Egyptian hieroglyphics or Egyptian myths. Amun-Ra, or the god Ra, is the solar light. Now, pause. I got a little bit more to read here, but it's very important that I say, in 2012, mere days after Dad had his first encounter with the lady, we're talking in our backyard, and he goes, "Son, I don't know what it means, but she told me Amun-Ra is the hidden one." And over time, I've been having dreams about this, and I've been, studying this and coming to the realization that, I believe the truest concept of God is Ra, is Amun-Ra. It's the force of, when you study what the ancient Cometians and the Hermetists taught about Ra, which I guess we're going to go into more, it's just basically consciousness, it was the Egyptians' way of personifying consciousness. We're in the East and Tibet and China and a lot of these tantric, yogic, Buddhist countries. They talked pure consciousness, pure force, pure dissolving of the ego, there are cosmic forces at play. I believe the Egyptians truly personified this concept with their description of Ra. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that was were they the first civilization to do that?
Who, like Egypt?
Yeah. Like personify these archetypes into like deities?
Probably, I don't know. I mean, I would probably say Hinduism. Technically, Hinduism is the oldest recorded religion.
Gotcha.
But it's complicated because it's really complicated. It's a very fascinating religion because for many thousands of years, nothing was even written down.
Right.
It was oral. There's so many different subsections and variations, and you have the Bhagavad Gita and the Rig Vedas and the Upanishads and all these various texts. And then you get into like the secret tantric Hinduism and then the offshoots and Tibetan Buddhism. It's like there's not one thing.
Yeah.
It's so complicated. And anyway, so I just wanted to say that it's, these beings told my dad literally, Amun-Ra is the hidden one. And what I'm trying to say here is it's crazy when you study esotericism and these texts, and they're secretly telling you like Ra is the solar force from which Christ emanates, the spirit Christ. So anyway, we're going to keep going here. Amun-Ra, or the god Ra, is the solar light. Noon, the waters, lifts Ra, the sun. So these letters X and R in Greek or X and P in Latin are a very ancient symbol of Christ, the fire. In Gnosticism, we always emphasize that Christ is fire. That is rooted in the Greek word. The Greek word Christos means anointed, an adjective of krien, to anoint. Also from this X, or Greek letter chi, comes the word iktus, which means fish, which is an ancient symbol of Christianity. In the Greek letter X, chi, we see a relationship with the word chi in Taoism that is represented by two fish in the form of an X.
Oh, shit.
The symbol of yin-yang, or the two forces or two polarities, which are diluted in the universe. Yin-yang are the two polarities of the same energy, the chi energy, represented in the X and pi, or X and rho of the Greek alphabet. For those that don't know, chi is what they call the living force of consciousness that flows through all things. It's like literally the force as described in Star Wars. It's chi. Chi flows through your body. Chi is the invisible presence that literally, according to the Taoist philosophy, animates all reality. It's consciousness. It's God. When you observe the infinite, which is formed by millions of galaxies, it brings into our memory the statement of Einstein, who said the infinite tends to a limit. By direct experience, we know that this infinite to which our galaxy belongs tends or extends to a limit, has approximately 100,000 galaxies and more. But after this infinite limit, you find an empty space, and then you find another infinite. So the theory of many infinities is something that we study in Gnosticism. Of course, you have to imagine 100,000 and more galaxies organized just in one infinity. It requires intelligence to organize all of those galaxies into infinite space. Observing that in the telescope, you become amazed by all the stars, galaxies, comets, planets, how they rotate around their centers, around their suns, just how everything is organized by these many laws. And just to assume that the infinite is there without any intelligence is foolishness. The intelligence is what we, the Gnostics, call Christ, which is not a person. You have to understand and to remember, this is Gnostic doctrine. This is, you have to understand and to comprehend that intelligence can exist as itself, by itself, without form. This intelligence is not one, but what we call the multiple perfect unity, which is everywhere and uses that solar light as a vehicle to express itself.
Wow.
So you have to think from a cosmic perspective, these suns are like miniature deities on the galactic, cycle of life here. If there's an order of if human beings are a low-level being compared to the celestial bodies, technically the sun kind of is God, It's a cosmic being that literally radiates light into our DNA. It charges us with life and energy.
Yeah, and if you have a more logic thinking brain, the craziest thing about this is modern science corroborates this information. They talk about celestial bodies and the incomprehensible amount of energy that they exude, energies that they can't even comprehend yet. Also, the thing that you said about infinite infinities and some infinities are larger than other infinities, that's real. Again, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I love him. Yeah. He's talked about that, how life as we know it, the universe as we know it, goes infinitely up and infinitely down.
Fractal.
Forever.
That's the mathematical term.
Yeah, exactly. And he has literally said verbatim, some infinities are larger than others. So just the fact that these thousands and these ages old, these ancient spiritual religions who have no way to corroborate this information or prove this or whatever, they were conceptualizing this ages ago.
Yes.
And now today in our modern society, we are proving them.
Yeah.
Is that a science alert?
Science alert.
Science alert. I like science alert. I like that.
Yeah, science alert.
I want to reiterate that the stuff I'm reading here, and I've got some really more interesting stuff to read from this, but what I'm reading here is you have to understand, people out there on this Christmas occasion, this is the stuff that the sages in the mystery schools teach in private. This is the secret shit. When you look at Freemasons, when you look at Golden Dawn, when you look at Rosicrucians, this is the shit. You know what I mean? And we all, the normies, we get the public version. They're all worshiping Satan. They're not. Now, Masons, I don't necessarily think they're a good group. I think they're one example of groups that have this esoteric knowledge and they abuse it. I acknowledge your funny hat, by the way. I acknowledge. I'm acknowledging that you look funny.
It just kind of was hurting my head because I have a massive head, and
for those not watching, Nick had his hat in a really goofy ass fucking way. But anyway, so this is the secret shit. This is what the mystics teach. I want to heavily stress to people that they know that Christ is a real force.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is where the spiritual glitch comes into play, where the Catholic Church held a gun to everybody's head, metaphorically, and said, you're going to worship Jesus as your God, who literally was born of a human virgin birth, and if you don't, you're going to burn in hell, bitch.
Yep.
That's the glitch. That is the glitch that I think that people will only evolve when they let go of this and every other religion that tells them some funny ass shit, like you're going to boil in a pot of turd if they say that in the Talmud.
They say that Jesus is like eternally boiling in a pot of feces and semen.
They literally say that in the Talmud. Like I know it's crazy, but he literally
doesn't say
it is
turd.
written in their texts.
It doesn't say turd.
All of these texts, it's like they have such wisdom, but then they're also like, yeah, but you got to follow our rules like the religious mafia, or you're gonna be punished X, Y, or Z way in the afterlife, buddy. But like what the mystics were teaching is no. You're in hell now.
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking.
Right.
You're in hell now. Your soul agreed before you came here to experience every single moment of time, exactly to every emotion that you feel, down to every choice that you consciously or unconsciously make. You're playing a part that you're not even aware of, and your higher self is dictating every single conscious moment of time in your life, and it's an experience. Remember, they said that in Steven Universe.
Dude, you are
Steven,
spitting.
You are an experience. Garnet said that to Steven. Remember that?
Yeah, and Garnet says that about herself too, that she's an experience.
And how shameful for all the people out there who teach us that, if we even think the wrong thought in this experience, we're
not worthy.
People aren't going to want to do good if they have a gun to their head spiritually.
Yeah.
I could tell you from experience, it don't work.
Well, honestly, I had a conversation with Mr. J. Shout out, Mr. J.
Shout out, Mr. J.
Congrats.
I love Mr. J.
Just got married. Congrats. Love you to death. We recently had a conversation about how, because he wouldn't consider himself a Christian anymore. And the thing that he was telling me was like the catalyst to that was he was like, why am I? Yeah, he said, I used to justify being a Christian by saying like, well, look, I can believe or I can not believe, but if I believe, at least I'm not going to go to hell. So I might as well just believe. But then it clicked in his head and he realized like, if I'm doing this just so I don't get punished forever, I don't want to like vibe with that God, because like, well, why am I going to get punished forever? I didn't even choose to be born. Like, you know what I mean? It's true. It's like, no, you're right. Nobody wants to follow something that you're forcing them to follow. If it truly came from a place of love and compassion and there were no strings attached like that, then that's what I want to follow. But I don't want to follow something because I don't want to burn in hell.
Well, I don't do anything anybody tells me to do.
Yeah, we know, Alex.
Yeah, you got a real complex with that. Anyway, so
you're not wrong. I mean, you're
damn psychoanalyzing. Why don't you? Okay, yo, Mr. Psych major over here.
I'm working on my emotions. I can only do one thing at a time.
Proud of you, Alex.
Yeah, you know what? I appreciate you expressing yourself, Alex, and I will never stifle that or never suppress that. But
never stop laughing at you.
We'll talk after class. So, y'all know why I got a psychology major? Like the truth of that. Because when I was 14 years old is when the Discovery Channel came around and the whole documentary crew was there, and the regressionist did the regression on my dad, and he did bending spoons and shit all the way back then. And I was like, this is cool. Yeah. I want to be a psychologist. Yeah. And I hated the degree, but I got it. But
I majored in psych because of the show Hannibal.
Good show. Season awesome. 3 was iffy, but the rest of the show was perfect. But I got a little bit more to read here, but it gets even more interesting. So that intelligence, that solar force abides within us. Christ is within and everywhere, but to retain and transform that energy in ourselves is precisely what we have to learn. And that is why the doctrine of how we transform and how we permute ourselves into solar beings is written in different religions. The permutation of the animal into a human is something that only Christ can perform, that only the fire can do. That fire transforms into the body and abides or dwells as a creator within our sexual glands.
Whoa.
That is why the great arcanum, the secret of secrets, sexual magic, which is Tantra, is the way in which Christ works with the X. Paul of Tarsus stated in Galatians 3:16, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. Paul continues, He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ. People mistakenly think that the seed or the generation of Abraham into David and to et cetera, will become Jesus Christ the Messiah. Christ is not Jesus of Nazareth, even though Jesus incarnated it and Christ is still within him. Jesus of Nazareth, the master Abramentho, came to this planet Earth in order to represent the drama, the cosmic drama of how we incarnate Christ in order to permute ourselves or transmute ourselves into solar beings.
Wow.
Jesus came in order to represent that, to show us physically how to do it. Regrettably so, people misunderstand the message and think that Jesus is the only one. We fall into the same mistake if we think that Buddha Gautama Shakyamuni is the only Buddha and that there are no more Buddhas. Yet if we understand that Buddha Gautama Shakyamuni came in order to represent the way we can become a Buddha and that each one of us has his own Buddha within, then we can also understand that Christ is a fire or an energy. The alchemists call Azoth.
Yo.
The Tao call Chi, et cetera, et cetera.
You know what that sounds like? The Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
That sounds literally like the Holy Spirit. They tell you in Christianity, or at least in like the Christianity, the Southern shit that we grew up with, like the Holy Spirit is a fire. It's like baptism by fire. We said it in a previous episode. That's so crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
It's within everybody, and we have to awaken that energy, and to develop that energy, Jesus of Nazareth came to teach us how, but he is not the only one that did that transformation. Many masters in the past performed that transformation in themselves. Humanity did not know this because in the past, in order to receive the knowledge of how to Christify yourself or to become a solar being, you need to awaken your consciousness first and to be aware of certain elements that you have within you. You had to pass the many tests in the College of Initiates in order to even receive the clue. In the ancient past, this was all guarded by rituals and secret hand signs and seals and symbols. And like, if you were showing an inkling that you didn't understand these principles, you were denied from the mystery school.
Wow.
But we're reaching the age of Aquarius with the internet, and society's different now. I 100% fully believe that this knowledge it's gonna spread, like it has to happen.
It already is.
It's the only way that we can evolve spiritually is when people awaken to the fact that they are tiny little microcosmic reflections of the highest truth, which is literally just the original white light that all reality shines from.
Yo, you know how I think it's going to happen? I think it's finally going to happen. It's going to come from a place of compassion.
Oh yeah, love.
It's going to come,
which is compassion.
Yeah, it's going to come from a place of all these people that belong to these religions finally saying, you know what, we're really not that different. We believe a lot of the same things. There's so much. There's infinitely more in common than we have that separates us. Like there's so much more in common that we have with one another, and I think that's the initial thing that starts to break down the walls. And then you start having conversations. Then you actually start like digging with those people. I told you, we hung out with my dad the other day, and he has a very close friend who practices Islam. And my dad is a very devout Christian. But my dad was like if there's a heaven,
that man's going.
He's getting there. He's going.
He told me that the other day. He was like, that man's going to heaven.
And he said,
that's progress.
Oh,
that's literal spiritual progress. If a devout, because your dad is a devout Christian.
Oh, yeah.
He's I wouldn't say old fashioned. He believes it. You know what I mean? And if he can look at me and say, my Muslim friend is going to heaven with me, to me, that's like something's happening.
That's new age shit. It's the walls coming down. That is a microcosm of how the awakening is going to happen.
I'm telling you, bro, it's happening around me.
Yeah.
It's happening around us, but I'm just saying, I'm only me. I only observe for me. Yeah. It's happening around me. Like I'm seeing people, I'm getting messages from people that I never in my wildest dreams would have ever talked to me about this shit. And they're like, I heard your podcast. I love it. Oh my God. And I'm like, whoa, like how do I react to this? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Are y'all enjoying this? Because I have
this is the best. I love this.
Okay, so y'all want to hear the esoteric Star of Bethlehem?
Yes.
Okay, so the Star of Bethlehem is our own particular individual being, our own particular monad. Each one of us has our own particular star of Bethlehem. The pineal gland is related with the city of Bethlehem, esoterically, where the Lord is born.
What?
The pineal gland is also related with the star of Bethlehem, the star that guides the magician. Remember the star in the Bible story, I think it's the book of Matthew, the nativity story, where the three wise men, also the three magi, are wandering through the desert following the North Star to find...
They're Zoroastrian magi.
Yes, they're literally Zoroastrian magi.
Yeah.
1,000 years, and we've already talked about a whole episode on this. The real ancient Zoroastrian priestly class for 1,000 years had a prophecy that there was going to be a star born and a person was going to, be found by this star and then... wake up the world or save the world or whatever their terminology was. Anyway, so cool little fact there.
So is this going to the place where like the Star of Bethlehem is like our intuition?
Yeah.
It's our North Star?
So that star is self-remembrance. This is why we always state that we have to remember ourselves, that we have to follow our own particular star, because all that which we are emanated from the Ein Sof. That's a Kabbalah term, I'm pretty sure. Within the Ein Sof, we have our own particular atom or star that is connected with our own particular physical body and consciousness. That particular Ein Sof or star, which is connected with Christ above, wants to unfold. It wants to develop all the powers of the Lord within us. The Ein Sof guides us if we listen and descends according to our degree in order for us to develop. To follow that star means to be a magician. Remember that the three wise men were following that star. So if you want to follow that star, you have to become a priest, which is the same as a magician. To become a priest or a magician does not mean to merely perform rituals, but only one, the ritual of transmutation of your solar force.
Damn.
So literally what the Gnostics and the mystics are teaching is like, fuck all that ritual shit. You don't need it. All you need to know is you just have to awaken that you are a piece of the light of God. That's the only spiritual truth that truly matters. Who cares about, I worship Allah, I worship Odin, I worship Zeus, I worship Thor. Who cares? I'm a spirit that descended into matter, and I'm becoming lucid that this is all a big fucking dream. Yeah. Who cares about your God? I'm sitting here worrying about my own shit. You know what I mean?
Like, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's all the same.
It's all different ancient people trying to explain the higher reality, which is we are living in a little dense, material, hellish microcosm of the higher reality. It's a reflection. It's the opposite of the higher reality. This is where the suffering happens. This is where the lead is put in the fire so that it's forged by the forge of Vulcan, esoterically, so that it becomes gold.
Wow.
It's metaphor. It's alchemy metaphor. The truth is it's strictly metaphorical. So anyway, in order for us to be born again, as Christ taught through the lips of the human Jesus, we have to be born by the waters of the Spirit. The waters in the Spirit are the symbol of this fire that we are describing here. The Spirit is the solar spirit of life. It's symbolized by Santa Claus that comes and places gifts into the hearts of those who are working that fire with that force.
Oh!
Every single year, the 25th, that fire enters through the planet, through the water, through the air, through the fire, through the earth, and into the body of the animals, plants, human beings, and minerals. Every single year, it enters and gives that gift, which is life. But who retains that gift and develops it in order to give life to his tree of life are what people at this holy day call the Christmas tree. What is the Christmas tree? Let's analyze the word Christmas. Christ is a solar energy and mass is a rite. So Christmas is a transformation or a rite in which the solar energy is transformed into life. The tree of life is always studied in Kabbalah. It is represented in the spinal column of every single human person, the Kundalini energy, the 33 vertebrae. That spinal column is the tree of life. If you have your spinal column healthy, your whole body is healthy, strong. If you damage your spinal column, you can damage your brain, you can damage other limbs of your body. The tree of life, the Christmas tree, symbolizes the spinal column. All the lights on the Christmas tree represent the senses of the soul that we need to awaken in order to perceive the truth of what Christ really is.
Damn, dude. And this shit is hitting right now. Like, this is so... I mean, I think so many people like me, like, Christmas is so nostalgic. Everything about it's so nostalgic. And you know what's funny about what you were just saying, where the 25th is when the fire comes into the world, into the water, into the trees and whatever. Dude, you telling me Christmas is not like the most high vibrational day of the year? You just feel it. There's just energy. There's
spiritual energy.
Yes, man.
And it's not that hard to grasp. That's the 25th is, we already discussed this forever and ever, is the day that the ancients knew. Universally, these different cultures around the world looked up every year and said, the sun is returning. The solar force is bringing life back to the world. They
were imbuing that day with their gratification and their energy. And it's like over the years, that energy is compounded and the stars and the celestial bodies capture that energy. And every year when it comes back around, that energy is magnified again. And it stacks and it goes and it goes and it goes. Oh my God, it's the spirit of Christmas. Oh my God. You know how it's all like.
That's a great name for the episode.
Love it. That's great. Dude, but you know how it's like, the whole big thing about Christmas is like, people are forgetting to believe. Nobody believes in Christmas
if you
anymore.
just believe.
Yeah. Dude, it's the spirit of Christmas. Oh my God, it's everywhere, dude. The spirit of Christmas is just like realizing that you're a piece of God. And like, that blew my mind so hard right now, man.
It's like, I'm out of notes, so I want to just say, like, I don't want this. This is one thing I take issue with. So, people out there listening, I don't want anybody to think, "Oh man, there's pagan origins. I can't, celebrate this anymore." Dude, who cares? Because when you know the truth of rituals and rites and these traditions, you can get to a certain point where, things only affect you if you let them. When you're awake to the truth, I don't think there's any harm in celebrating a fun, nostalgic holiday with your family. I celebrate Christmas.
Well, here's what I think about it. I feel like if I was a person who was feeling that way and I'm like, I love Christmas so much, but now it has like these pagan roots and I don't know if that taints it, blah, 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 blah. I see like our bodies or our minds or whatever as like the filter. Because you know how we talk about how like Catholicism hijacked these pagan concepts because there was so much energy behind them already, and they just transmogrified it to be about something different.
Yeah.
I feel like we can do that within ourselves. You can take these pagan concepts and say like, I celebrate in the way I always have, but for me, it's for Jesus. And like, it can be true. Your energy can be reflected that way because it passes through your filter. It's intention. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's intention.
It's about your intentions, not the world's intentions, not the whatever. If you have a specific intention, that energy will filter through you and nourish you in the way that you intend.
That's what I was trying to say is like, if you know the truth about these things, they don't hold any power over you if, your intentions are right. But my biggest honest take on spirituality, like if you forget all the complicated history and all the mumbo jumbo and the spiritual jargon and this and that and the other, I think if there was just one thing that mattered, it would be every moment of your life focus on constantly making the choice to do no harm to another soul or to yourself.
Facts.
Consciously make the choice to do no harm. Consciously always make the choice to not permit or to not, commit any acts that bring you guilt or bring damage to another person. And I think if it's just people just follow the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like when I do things for people or to people, I imagine like I want to do something for this person that I know would make me happy.
If someone did it for you.
If someone did it for me, or like what I would do for me. When I make content that would make me happy, that I would enjoy.
Yeah.
When we make music, I make music that would make me happy or that I would enjoy. When you treat other people a certain way, think about how you would treat yourself and vice versa. You know what I mean? Just do no harm. I don't, like.
No, absolutely. And when you think about it from the perspective of like, we are all one soul.
Exactly.
It's like,
that's why. That's the why.
Yeah, when you do things to other people, you are doing them to yourself.
Exactly.
Because you're the same. We're all the same. We're all one big person, basically. So when you do something to somebody else, it affects you in the same way. Like you attract the energy you put out. Law of attraction. It's like if I treat you bad, I'm treating myself bad. We share a soul. Every being on this planet shares one big soul. like you're hurting the movement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you hurt somebody else, you're hurting the movement.
That's not hard to understand because you feel bad too.
Facts, bro. Facts. You always feel bad. It might feel.
You could pretend to not feel bad. But when you go to bed and you're laying there,
you feel bad.
You feel bad.
Yeah, you could put on a guise like it makes you feel better.
I shouldn't have thrown my brother through the window.
Did you do that?
No, but I did kick his car one time.
I just remembered that one time I just remember that one time I threw Garrett through a window.
Oh, God.
It was an accident.
We're going to have to talk about that.
I love you, Garrett. I'm sorry. He doesn't watch the show, but shout out, Garrett. Sorry for throwing you through a window. It was an accident. We were wrestling. Okay, we were wrestling.
It's pretty severe.
We were kids. And it was in my brother's bedroom, too. And he just went right through the glass window. I'm sorry.
Things happen when you're wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of notes.
Oh, dude, that was such an epic episode.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. I love that. That was awesome.
Merry Christmas.
That was so cool. Great job, man.
Thank you.
You killed it with the research on that. That was excellent. Great input, Alex. I love you. You're handsome as ever, and I am always a little upset about it.
Alex, I affirm you.
I affirm you, too. All right, let's do it.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Bye, guys.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, check out our other videos.
And before you go, don't forget to subscribe. See you next week. Peace.